This is Jonathan Ferguson, the Keeper of Firearms and Artillery at the Royal Armouries Museum in the UK, which houses a collection of thousands of iconic weapons from throughout history. And on this week's episode, in preparation for the Borderlands movie, we wanted to go back and take a look at some of the weapons across the Borderlands franchise.
Well, another disgusting monster gun. No idea why that great big metal rod is attached to the bottom of it and to the back of the pistol grip. That's doing nothing.
I love that there's like an alien shoved around the barrel and you're looking at a small metal rod.
What am I going to do? I'm not a xenobiologist, Dave.
If you want even more of Jonathan's reactions to the downright daft weapons of Borderlands, we've got 2 episodes covering the guns of Borderlands 3 already on the channel, so be sure to go back and check those out, and of course let us know what other games you'd like to see us cover in the comments section down below. Right, over to Jonathan.
Ah, the name is apt. Appears to be a Christmas-themed revolving anti-material rifle. Oh, with a weird pivoting cylinder. I'm not sure how that is pivoting, because if you've got a pivot pin through the front of it, it's through one of your chambers. I know Borderlands doesn't care about my pedantry before anyone says anything. Not really a need to put a revolving cylinder on, well, frankly, anything these days, but especially not a big, powerful rifle. Well, with a conventional firearm, you get a ton of high-pressure gas coming out the front of the cylinder. There's probably some sci-fi way of containing that. And your wrist is right where that is coming out, so I'm not a fan of that. And it limits your capacity to 3, whereas if you had a conventional box magazine on the side or on the bottom, you could have 5 rounds. Why wouldn't you want 5 rounds instead of 3? The paint scheme is probably the least of my concerns with this thing. Right, this pistol brings to mind the pistols that were made for Blade in Blade 2, but then given to Ron Perlman's character with a funny bayonet trigger, well, not trigger guard, but like, I guess you punch people in the face with them and they would act like knives. But the rest of this gun is very different to those. We do have a reciprocating slide there, very fast reciprocating slide. Knife bayonet thing is remarkably effective, I think is the best way I can put it. Kind of mulches people with one touch. Speaking of Blade, this is very reminiscent of his Mat 10 from Blade 1 with the weird big square guard on the bottom.
So the gimmick of this one, which I'm sure you've come across in your work plenty of times, is you throw it to reload it and then it comes back and explodes. Hence the name Gunerang.
Words fail. What's the point?
Well, there's a whole brand of weapons in Borderlands that are reloaded by throwing them away, and like a new one is constructed. Some of them turn into like turrets or things like that. The purpose is for you to try and hit an enemy with what is basically a not very good grenade that's homing back to you.
So if you miss, it comes back at you?
Yeah.
Okay. Some sort of energy projectile situation. Very short slide travel. It's not really a slide, more of a bolt. It's like a Nerf gun.
Is the rear of the slide a bit Glock? Vaguely?
Yeah, someone's looked at the back of a Glock or a similar striker-fired pistol and then gone to town, because it doesn't actually look that much like one, but the visual reference is there, for sure. Somehow it makes more sense when you're using 2 of them, leaning into the crazy. Always complaining about lack of red dots on sci-fi pistols, or sci-fi firearms, I should say, but here they still have the iron sights, which are not very good, and the optics don't actually do anything, I don't think. Can you aim through them?
You can, but they are also not very good. They're just a series of squares.
Of course. Since we already have red dots that are very short and very narrow, I don't know why you would have giant television screens on top of your guns. SWORDSPLOSION?
Guess what this thing fires instead of bullets?
Is it swords?
That explode.
I hate the sight. Rarely use the H word, but I think I've been primed by so many sci-fi and fantasy guns that just have a ring on them and you're expected to use that as a sight. It does have a reticle in it. So of all of the sci-fi gun sights, it's nowhere near as bad as I initially worried. It's not the Fallout screw sticking up in the middle of a tube thing. I've got to admit, it is pretty amusing to have a gun that shoots. They're more like knives than swords, I would say. How they're contained within the magazine, I don't know. Why it has a side saddle ammo container that are clearly shotgun shells, I don't know. You wouldn't think there'd be anything I could show you that has any connection to this, but you would be wrong.
Jonathan's off to get his gun that shoots swords.
Well, that's where you're wrong, Dave, because although I imagine you're thinking ballistic knife, but that's not a gun, it's a spring-loaded blade. And the thing I'm thinking of that is sort of like this, and it's not the CIA Hellfire sword missile either, is this. This is a Lehigh Defense 300 Blackout bullet that has been fired and is fully deployed. It's petals, it's designed to expand like a hollow point, but it's a solid copper projectile. And each of these is a blade. And to that extent, that is a flying edged weapon, not a sword. That's the best I can do, guys. Something that shoots a cutting implement. Bows, crossbows, arrows, bolts, quarrels, they are also flying edged weapons, or at least the ones with edges on their heads are, on their points. Broadheads, they are literally cutting implements that fly through the air, just like that 300 Blackout bullet. Of course, not content with swords that fly through the air. That's the irony here. I'm going on about how projectiles can be edged weapons effectively, but these effectively aren't because they blow up.
It just screams while you shoot it. I don't know why it exists. I hate that it does. It just screams.
I just heard it shout reload as well.
It like wrecks your movement speed and stuff as well. Like, it's included as a meme, surely, because there's no good reason to actually use this for your own sanity or gameplay.
I suppose if you're playing co-op and you really hate your friend, you could annoy the out of them. It's kind of funny for the first couple of minutes. I don't think beyond that, though. Oh, good grief. This is like the Burton rifle at the Cu+ie Firearms Museum. Look it up, it's really cool. That has twin V-shaped magazine housings and mags, but flipped upside down, painted purpley, pinky something, and screams while you shoot it. Again, for some reason.
Yeah, Borderlands has a real thing for guns that scream or shout at you or talk to you.
The magazine catches remind me of something. I'm sure there are a couple of weapons that use great big levers like that hook into the mag. The one that comes to mind is the German gassed double aircraft gun.
I love that. Of all the weapons that you've managed to draw some real world parallels to, it's the Cu+ie killer that is screaming kill, 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 kill.
Yeah. I've got to find something, Dave. And there's not much else to talk about on this one, I'm afraid.
If it makes you feel any better, your time watching the footage is easier than the time I had to spend playing with this thing.
Yeah, but you didn't have to do this, did you?
No, that's true. I didn't have to do it. I did opt to do it because I thought it'd be funny.
This is a self-inflicted wound.
If I'm going down, you're coming down with me.
Oh my God. I mean, thank you for confirming that I'm right to have not bothered going back to Borderlands. There's no emotional support weapon sufficient for this. Oh, good Lord. God. Right, let's see what we can do with this. So this is clearly Kalashnikov inspired with some significant changes, notably a triple barrel Gatling gun element, shrunk down and put on a pseudo Kalashnikov in lieu of a normal barrel. Very busy, Some of these designs are very busy, all sorts stuck to them. There appear to be like 3 different sights. There's a red dot sight with a weird frame on the back of it that seems to serve as a rear sight. You don't need a rear sight with a red dot. The red dot is your front and your rear sight. And then behind that is the rear sight for the iron sights. Sort of sightception. Pretty conventional looking cartridge cases, very low poly cartridge cases coming out of this thing.
Does it make your brain hurt trying to imagine how the bullet gets to the barrel?
Yeah. Yeah. Because this is essentially an under-barrel weapon, but the barrel's missing. The projectiles are somehow being teleported down into the breeches of the Gatling gun, and the blue clashes with the purple. Yeah, even more weirdness. I kind of like this design though. There's something very unbalanced about it, but I think I'm just a sucker for that red, that Iron Man metallic red, and the weird barrel with the brake, although it wouldn't function as a brake, and it's probably an energy weapon. Oh, hello. Looks like it's a gun that shoots itself.
It's another one of those that does something when it reloads. So when you reload it, it turns into like a rocket. And then if you shoot the rocket, as you can see it says shoot me, then it explodes again.
Does it ever explain how you manifest guns out of nothing?
It's called like Digistruct or something. It's the same way, you know, when you die in Borderlands, you just get like beep boop beep boop and you're back. It's like imagine storing a bunch of guns in like a Star Trek pattern buffer, which is maybe the nerdiest thing I've said.
You're right though, that is the closest thing. And that's how the Elite Force games handled the classic FPS where do we keep our weapons thing. They had them appear out of a personal transporter buffer, which I thought was cool actually. Needless to say, the idea of a sort of rocket assisted carbine or whatever you want to call this that is in itself a weapon is mad. They should have put a bayonet on it if they were going to do that.
Someone developing the next Borderlands game just wrote that down.
You can have that one for free. Right, something recognizable at last. I'm seeing a Rhino-esque cylinder or a Mateba-esque cylinder, and something akin to the Single Action Army or the Remington New Model Army with a ludicrous barrel muzzle brake, ammo holder, bayonet that barely protrudes beyond the brake. Oh, it's fun reload. I will say that. All the rounds come flying out of the cartridge holder and somehow all go into the cylinder. I did grab a couple of real guns because I frankly do need the emotional support. This is a Colt Single Action Army Bisley model with the very curved target grip. Now you can see this shares the very robust top strap of the Borderlands gun. That was creative. Does change the look and the feel of the classic Single Action Army, designed for the bent wrist bullseye style target shooting. That's in 455 Ely, as it says on the side. Loading gate on the side. So this has what looks like a loading gate, but that's some sort of weird doohickey. The other thing I grabbed hold of, because I thought, well, this kind of looks like a Magnum-sized revolver, although now that I look at it, I'm not so sure, but I'll show you anyway, is the Virginian Dragoon, which is a 44 Magnum single-action army. And if I put the Bisley next to it, you can see it's chunky. That very flat hammer, by the way, is more like a Webley long spur or something. Very, very low down. The way these worked, single action, so you have to cock the hammer before you pull the trigger. The idea is, in theory, that the recoil brings it up, positioning your thumb just right to pull the hammer down as you lower the gun and it's ready to shoot. So you sort of roll with the recoil, so the hammer spurs are very, very high. With the Webley long spur, the hammer is back here, so you can cock it very easily from here with a different shaped grip. So just different ways of doing things. We have a habit with, well, all technology really, of looking backwards from where we are now and thinking, well, that's not very ergonomic. But there's a reason for most things. Yes, the science of ergonomics and human factors and all of that has moved on in the last 100 years, and there is probably an objective way, objective ways in which something is better ergonomically, but there were reasons why things were shaped the way that they were. Well, another disgusting monster gun. You've done it to me again. Very AK-esque magazine. Very weird semi-thumbhole stock there. I have no idea why that great big metal rod is attached to the bottom of it and to the back of the pistol grip. That's doing nothing.
I love that there's like an alien shoved around the barrel and you're looking at a small metal rod.
What am I going to do? I'm not a xenobiologist, Dave. I can't tell you what the hell that is. What else can I say? It has a very Saiga-looking, knurled, round cocking handle on the left side there. Normally that's a bad idea because it will snag on things, but here it gives you something you can actually get hold of without touching the thing on the front of it.
I think you'll like the ammo counter though. You like holograms?
Yes, now I have said before, holograms for readouts, for sights, makes lots of sense for sci-fi guns. So yeah, makes more sense than the pulse rifle counter being on the wrong side where you can't see it. But yes, the sort of eldritch horror attached to the front. It's not clear to me what it's doing exactly. And is the gun designed to work with it, or has it been augmented in some way by this creature with its horrible toothy, clawy things?
I believe they came from one of the DLCs that started to add a bit more variety in.
Because that's what Borderlands needs, more variety in its weapons. Oh god. I'm not sure what you want from me at this point.
Rocket launcher is our burger.
Yeah.
I basically included it because it was in my inventory and I was like, that's weird and funny and it shoots burgers, so let's include it. And then when I looked it up, it's apparently a reference to an old viral YouTube video of a guy reviewing Five Guys in his car.
Damn.
Okay.
The fact that that could be a source of a unique weapon in Borderlands somewhat fascinates me. That someone on the weapon design team can be like, haha, viral video, I'm going to make a rocket launcher inspired by it.
What's next? A gun that shoots a cat that plays the keyboard. Oh, why did I say that?
It's the second thing that the developers have written down from this.
I was thinking when I realized that it didn't just have animated burger paint on it and it actually shoots cheeseburgers, I thought, right, well, what damage is a cheeseburger going to do? Still not clear. It does some sort of energy burst.
I can tell you what damage a cheeseburger can do because I'm not fitting very well into my clothes at this point.
Should you wish to have a cheeseburger paint scheme on your firearm, that is possible. There's people out there that would design that for you and dip your firearm into it. Don't know why you'd want to, but you could at great cost.
I feel like I should explain what Tiny Tina's Wonderland is.
I've heard of it. I don't know what it is.
It's Borderlands characters playing a Borderlands version of Dungeons and Dragons within Borderlands. The levels in Tiny Tina's Wonderlands are the adventures that someone is playing through on the tabletop in Borderlands.
What absolute nonsense. Where to start? Well, I was tipped off that there was a pistol crossbow. So you've got a pistol crossbow. This should not flap around in the breeze, by the way. There are pieces missing top and bottom here, and the string would be vertical here. And as you add, I've fitted one of the arrows from Big Joe, which is a bigger weapon. The actual Little Joe arrows are these, and they are arrows, by the way, little baby arrows. They're not bolts per se. Careful not to stab myself with it. So something like that in actual use. And if you're wondering who the hell Joe was, well, they were nicknames from the Office of Strategic Services for the big, somewhat conventional shoulder shot crossbow, and this little guy, hence Little Joe. The idea was it's a silent weapon, albeit you're not very silent when you get a miniature broadhead through the side of the head. So these are conventional medieval style arrowheads. I don't know about this, but the big one also shot incendiary arrows. We ended up, presumably through SOE, with one of the little guys and one of the big guys. As for this thing, it has two prods, two sets of arms, so it's already quite different to that. They're transverse, which is conventional. That's unusual in having them vertical. And there's some sort of revolver firearm in the middle of it all. Really, really odd, needless to say. A bit like Chewbacca's bowcaster. Why do you need energy if you have a bow? Quite confusing. What are the strings doing if the rounds have what appear to be some sort of primer? Electrical primers? Don't know. Why do you need prods? I think there's only actually one across the top and then just two arms on the bottom. Doesn't make any sense as a gun, doesn't make any sense as a crossbow. Does look cool though.
Each shall ne'er prevail.
Ooh, okay. Another weirdly unbalanced looking thing, at least as a gun. Oh, wow. Some sort of mortar bombs by the look of it on the bottom there. So we've got a gun barrel up top, albeit mounted very low. The scope's breaking my brain slightly because even the eye cut appears to be made of wood. There's not much point of a wooden eye cut. There are a couple of real weapons that are actually a little bit like this. There was a great big bomb launcher underbarrel thing for the M16 that was developed experimentally that reminds me a bit of this. Yeah, so look up the RAW, or Rifleman's Assault Weapon. Yes, people, it's a great big globular looking underbarrel thing that launches off the bottom of your M16. Didn't go anywhere, but reminds me of this. I do like the way that those pivot up into a firing position, although there's no reason why they should. The bombs themselves on this, or munitions, whatever they are, munitions, are reminiscent of mortar bombs, though. A bit different to what I'm thinking of. We will continue to see developments in underbarrel weaponry, I'm sure. So far, they haven't paid off. The famous OICW has gone nowhere, and even the component weapons of that haven't gone anywhere, really, unless you're in the Malaysian Navy. But I think Raytheon a few years ago was working on a very slim guided missile for an underbarrel launcher on a rifle. So they'll keep trying to do that. Maybe even an underbarrel drone, underbarrel FPV drone with a camera on the back. I've given you another idea for free there, Borderlands. All right, this is another mishmash, some sort of a launcher. It has a sort of Bofors cannon style top feed magazine going on, but those are not sort of cannon or grenade rounds. They are more like rockets. Or am I looking at two different things here? Is this another gun rocket combo?
Yeah, there's the main munition that's like a mole mine, hits the ground and tunnels under, and then there's the small rocket pods at the bottom.
Right, okay. The rocket pods are actually quite primitive. You'll see that kind of simple tube affixed to a frame, stuck to the side of a helicopter. They're still around. Some of the earliest rocket pods. The first rockets were just on rails on the bottom of a wing or something, and then they started putting them in tubes, essentially like a shoulder-fired weapon, but in clusters on the side of or underneath an aircraft. I don't know why they necessarily need to deploy like that. They could just launch from where they are. I don't know why they pivot out like wings. All of these designs, there's a lot going on that doesn't have an obvious function, that's just designed for the sake of design. That's fine. It's very much a sci-fi fantasy setup. But I always particularly enjoy made-up guns that look like they could work in some way, even if they're not plausible in other ways.
You'll have to excuse a little while.
Okay, that round of mental torture is over. Thanks, Dave. Some guns, weapons of some kind from the Borderlands franchise there. Hope you enjoyed that. I'm still traumatized by the screaming guns. I hope you'll join us over at the Royal Armouries YouTube channel. Check out our website, social media, check out the museums if you can. But whatever you do, join us again here on GameSpot next week.